I'm Alex Hormozi. Went from zero in March 17 to doing 112 million in sales between 4 companies, and I have nothing to sell you. And I'm on the passionate few. It was an enjoyable interview, and I hope people take at least one of the lessons from the failures that we had to not have to experience the same.
Hey guys, welcome to this episode of the Passionate Few podcast. Today, it's your host, Omar here, and today we're sitting down with the CEO of Gym Launch and a handful of other companies, none other than Alex Hormozi. And as some people might know in the internet space, he's gone from literally zero in March of 2017, I think, to now just clearing 110 million in revenue between his companies. So today we're going to pick his mind, hear his whole story, and get some advice for how you guys can grow your mindset in business. Thanks so much for being on the show today, Alex.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Awesome, man. So I know we were talking a little bit before the Zoom call about kind of the nuances of now you're kind of teaching entrepreneurship and kind of giving advice with no agenda per se. But take me back, like, where did the inspiration for the entrepreneur that is Alex before, 110 million in revenue, you and your wife, Layla, really killing it in the fitness space. But like, take me back to Alex before all this started. What were you doing before, and where did entrepreneurship start for you early on?
I would say I had an atypical story. I was not the entrepreneur who felt like school didn't understand him and who, struggled paying attention and was slinging, hot dogs on the side. Like, that was not my story. I did really well in school. Went to Vanderbilt, graduated in 3 years, magna cum laude. Did very well in the SATs. I got above Harvard's mid score on my GMATs, and I was planning on going the management consultant or investment banking route because that was kind of where I knew that people made the most money. Mm-hmm. But I read The 4-Hour Workweek when I was a management consultant, and it was during the process when I had just done my 2 years. I was 23, mm-hmm. And I realized that there was no job that was going to pay me as much money as I wanted to make and would let me live. Mm-hmm. I knew that there were jobs like being an investment banker, for example. You can make 10 million a year as an investment banker, once you move up the ranks, but you pretty much give 25 years of your life to get there. And that was like, I don't know. I didn't feel like it made sense to me to give up all of my youth for money later. You know what I mean? We all see those cartoons with the person chasing the money, and at the very end, they have all this money and they're old and they're looking at a cliff. And so I just didn't want that. And so I was applying for business school. And one of the questions was, how will, XYZ MBA help you with your short and long-term goals? And I think pretty sure this is why they asked the question, to make sure that people are clear on why they're even applying. And I spent like 2 days looking at the question, and then I just realized it wasn't gonna help me with my short and long-term goals. And so then I just looked at the opportunity cost of spending, $200,000 in 2 years of not making income versus, starting a business. And so that was what got me to transition. I looked at a bunch of different business ideas. I was super close to opening up a frozen yogurt store. You
have a name for it?
Evie's Treats.
Evie's Treats.
Yeah, I just thought it was like sweet and kiddish, and it had like a candy and a positive vibe overall. Yeah. I was going to model it after a candy store, except it had frozen yogurt, but from a decoration style, think like lights and all the huge tubes of toppings. Like I could tell you all about the yogurt business if you ever want to. But anyways, I ended up realizing that it was like $200,000 to start one of those, and I didn't have that. So I had about $60,000 that I had saved up at 23. And
how did you save up that cash? Just from jobs along the way?
From the consulting gig that I landed after college. So I had.
How much were you making, give or take, doing the consulting, if you don't mind sharing at that time?
It's good. So I had set up, I think I was making 50 or 60. I honestly can't remember. It was either 50 or 60 grand a year, mm-hmm. Out of college. And the second year I was in that job, they allowed me to work on like commission. Mm-hmm. So if I brought in a deal, I would get a higher rate. Mm-hmm. And so they ended up switching me to that. And so we ended up having one deal that happened in the last 6 months of me being there. And I got 2 like $30,000 paychecks. And after I got the second one, that deal ended. And so I was going to have another period where I basically didn't get a paycheck until the next deal came through. Right. And so it was at that point that I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. And so that's when I sold my condo, and I packed my car, and I started driving across the country to California, which is where I opened my first gym.
And when you opened your first gym, this is before you met Layla or anything like that, right?
Yep,
you were solo at the stage. So 24, you open your first gym. And what's your plan at this stage? Like, are you already thinking about scale in this, or is just like a path and you want to create your own income? Like, what was your mindset?
It's
Because
a good
a
question.
lot of entrepreneurs now at 24, 25, they're trying to get the 2 Comma Club, be on stage at ClickFunnels, like, and they make that the target instead of the stuff in front of them.
Yeah.
So take me to your mindset wise at that time. What was going through your head with that first one?
I was never planning on being like, I would say it was brief
Mhm.
that I wanted to be so I'll answer your question with context. I was so depressed in this consulting job that I just didn't want to be alive anymore. And so I, I didn't. And so when I realized that a lot of the things that I created was because of what I thought I was supposed to do,
Mhm.
and that I was, in some places they call that a rock top moment rather than a rock bottom moment. You get to the top of the mountain and you realize there's nothing there, right? And so I was like, this is miserable. If the rest of my life is more of this, then I don't want to play. And so that was when I, quit everything, sold everything, and said, well, at least if I, do fitness, it's something that I'm really passionate about. And they say if you do something you're passionate about, then you don't have to work another day in your life or whatever
Right.
the saying is. And so I kind of bought into that, which is a lie, but definitely have worked since then. But it got me on that path. And the thing is that as soon as I started the gym, it was the hardest period of my life was the first 9 months of running my gym. Actually, top two hardest periods of my life. And during that process, once I got out of like sleeping on the gym floor, which is how I started, to actually like making it into a business, at that point I was hooked. And I was all I could think about was how do I scale? How do I get more gyms? How do I open more locations?
And from the point where you started to you started getting momentum was about 9 months, you said?
I was very fortunate. I hired a coach before I opened a gym.
Yeah.
So I learned from the consulting world that the fastest way to learn a skill is to hire an expert, because that's exactly what you do in the consulting or the management consulting world, which I came from.
And
Because
was that Sam Bakhtiar?
it was Seven Figure Sam. Yep.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I actually knew Sam. Rest in peace, Sam. And
Yeah.
yeah, I
Great.
know that he was instrumental in so many people's fitness journey. So what did you learn from him, man? That's awesome.
Yeah. So to my knowledge, I think Sam's only apprentice. So he created, it's kind of funny, classic Sam fashion. I emailed 40 gym owners that seemed like they were doing something. He was the only one who replied to me. I was in Baltimore. He said, come on over. Sure, man. We'll see what we can do. I drove over, knocked on his door, and he was like, holy shit, you're here. Like, that's weird. Like, you're in Baltimore. I was like, yeah, I'm here. And he's like, where are you staying? I was like, I don't know. I just showed up at your door. And he was like, I was like, no, I literally just got out of my car, like from Baltimore, like, hi. And so, anyways, he said, well, I'm busy right now. He's like, but you can come over to my place for dinner tonight. You can sleep over. And I was like, oh, thanks. So like, that was kind of the guy Sam was. And I think Sam was a really passionate guy. He was definitely very opinionated. He created a lot of enemies and a lot of friends. But you always knew where you stood with Sam. So he took me in, and then I woke up with him every day. I was at the gym at 4 with him to kind of learn the ropes. He let me sign up for his mastermind. So he was like, it's 10 grand for my mastermind. So I said, okay, here's 10 grand. I was like, I don't have a gym. And he said, it's fine. and then he turned around and gave me a job. So I was like, he started paying me back the money from the mastermind that I just paid for. And then 90 days in, I found a location and I said, I'm going to open this one. So
how scary was it for you to invest the cash at that time? Because that
it
amount of money
wasn't,
when you're in your mid 20s and
I had 60. So I knew I had 10 left or 10 less. And then I had 50. Like I was just running off of like, how much money do I have?
Right.
And then I opened the gym, I think for 37 or something like that. And I spent money in the 3 months in between. So I know I had $5,000 left in my bank account when the gym opened.
And was fitness already a part of your routine? And I just want to
Yeah.
zoom in because I think a lot of people, obviously you're fit as hell. We see all your calves videos on your Instagram.
Yeah, I think when I was 15, I was already very fit. Like I was already like extremely fit.
And how do you maintain the consistency thing? You just love it, and it's so the consistency is automatic at this stage. The results drive you, or does it help you with business in a certain context? Like, do you get off?
Honestly, none of those things.
Really?
So I might have an interesting answer for you. Yeah, it's interesting because I think if you talk to a lot of entrepreneurs about fitness, they're actually kind of green. They're new to it. I've been training for 17 years. So as though like, despite the fact that I'm younger, like I'm like old in the iron game. You know what I mean?
How old are you
I'm
now?
31.
31. Okay.
But like I've been training for a long time. Like I mean, I had state records when I was 20. So like I'd been competing for a long time at that point already. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so in the beginning, I started working out because I wanted to be strong enough to protect myself.
Mhm.
And then it transitioned from that to wanting to get girls, which it didn't help with, but that's what I thought it would help with. And then from there, it transitioned to status, right? Once I was in college, it was more about just like looking good in general.
Mhm.
And then from there, it transitioned to being about progress, because then I got into the strength game and really started like powerlifting and competing and all that.
Mhm.
And then once I opened my business, from that point going forward, and that was 2013 when I opened my gym, my first gym,
Mhm.
fitness no longer was a priority for me. My growth, my body was the vehicle for growth prior to the business, and then the business became the vehicle for growth as soon as that started.
Mhm.
I would say from then until now, it's been more or less the same, which is I work out because it is a part of my identity. I enjoy what I feel like after I work out. I take the same amount of inertia to overcome to get to the workout, facility. Like I have, and I'm working on this now, hopefully. I mean, I have achy joints, like my knees hurt, my hips hurt, you know what I mean? Because I've been doing a lot of volume for a long time. So like I get in there and I just try and I just call them punch in. It's just like I clock in, I clock out, I do my volume, and I go about my life because I am in the fitness space and I need to look a certain way. And so that's kind of what I've kind of tricked
Yeah.
myself into. It's like I
Yeah.
have to look a certain way.
Yeah.
I don't think I actually have to, but I
Sam,
trick myself.
Sam actually told me that too, that it's like used as like a pressure motivation. And that's why so often you see that, very seldomly you see people in other careers actually maintain their physique over the course of years. It happens, but it's an anomaly.
Yeah.
Usually people who maintain their body are in the fitness space because they're walking billboards. It creates that pressure of like, shit, I'm an example of what I teach at
Yeah.
some level, at least in your head. Yeah.
Yeah, it's difficult because you also a lot of things that make you look super fit are actually not good for your health. So
Right.
like me walking around at my body weight in general is not good for my longevity, which is one of the things I struggle with because I want to make progress, right? I want to get better, but me getting better, I actually think, I mean, if I get bigger now, I just look worse.
Mhm.
And if I get stronger, my joints hurt more. And if I gain more muscle, I live less time because my heart will give out. So
Yeah.
that's like the real that no one talks about. So those are the things that I look at. So for now, it's like I train to train so that I can maintain where I'm at. I may lose 30 pounds, when I'm 40, just to get even leaner. But anyways, not to digress into a fitness tangent.
No, it makes sense because a lot of people, I'm sure, think about that. A lot of times, they say one area affects the other. Have you found that when you don't work out for X amount of time, it starts throwing you off in business a little bit, or starts throwing off your mind or rhythm at all?
Not at all.
Not at this stage, yeah.
No, not at all. If I don't work out, I'm just if anything, I have more energy. I mean, I used to sell fitness, and so I would tell people like, the reason you're tired is because you're not working out. And I think that there's some truth to that because like if you're not, it's usually because people are just so unaware of their body and what they're eating, and they're so out of touch. But like, I know what I eat. I know how many grams of everything that go into my body because I've been doing it for such a long time. So, and if I take a week off, I'm fine. You know what I mean? And I work out.
So you occasionally pig out then. You're human. You're not just like the super disciplined robot that's up at like 2 a.m. or 3 a.m., 4 a.m. every day.
Well,
What's
it's
balance for you?
anything that I can't do forever, I don't do.
Mhm.
And so I don't follow diets. I don't like none of those things make any sense to me personally. Because unless you're competing, right, which just about no one is, then the only thing that you have to do is something that you can do for a sustainable period of time. And so for me, like I'm writing a book on it because Russell, I've had so many conversations with entrepreneurs. I did this weekend where it was 8 entrepreneurs and all of us are doing about $500 million a year in revenue between the 8 of us. And everybody went up and shared tactics and whatnot. And then during lunch, everyone's seeing me eating cookies and Twizzlers, and they're like, "What is wrong with you?" And on the second day, they saw me doing it again, and they were like, "What the hell? Like seriously?" And they're all like, "No, I do keto," because they're all entrepreneurs, right? No, I eat only 2 fats, and I do intermittent fasting, and like they're always just doing all this crazy shit.
Right.
Sorry if I was not supposed to cuss.
No, you're good.
And and I was like, "You guys just have it all wrong. Like I eat 2 pounds of meat a day, which is 200 grams of protein, and that gets me about 1,000 calories. And then I eat 1,500 calories of whatever else I want, and that's every day. That's it. So if I want to eat 1,500 calories of ice cream, I do that. If I want to eat 1,500 calories of pizza, I do that. If I want to eat bagels and cream cheese, then I do that. It doesn't matter. It truly does not matter. And it's just not sexy from a fitness selling perspective because it's like everybody wants to have a unique mechanism.
Right.
But the reality is like you eat a gram per pound of body weight in protein, and then the rest of your calories to whatever your goal is. And if you want to be in a deficit, just decrease it. But I haven't stopped eating ice cream for years. I eat ice cream probably once to twice a day.
I want to ask one more question before we get back to the business stuff.
Yeah.
But I notice you're a systems guy. Like
Yeah.
you have a lot of these rules and systems. Do you spend a lot of time kind of like, obviously it sounds simple, right? It's something I can't do forever. I don't do, like a very simple rule, but I'm sure it took a lot of trial and error and bullshit to get to that simple conclusion. Do you spend a lot of time consciously reviewing and reiterating systems like in your mindset, in your business? Is that a constant priority for you?
100%. It's probably the thing that I do the most of.
Just
It's just,
refining little things.
it's developing frameworks. It's developing frameworks for thinking. Because like at the end of the day, we only have so much decision-making power. And if we can use frameworks, then we can conserve that power and make more high quality decisions. And a lot of times the decisions that we are making are similar in nature. The variables may be different, but the nature of the decision is the same, right? Are we going to spend more? Are we going to spend less? Are we going to add more acquisition? Are we going to add this extra service line? And whatever it is. And so if you're making that decision for the first time, it's very arduous. You're like trying to spring it all in and trying to weigh the outcomes. But if you have a framework for making the decision, then it's significantly easier and faster, and you have a higher likelihood of making the right call, which, at a certain point, all of us are simply rewarded for the quality of our decisions over a long enough time horizon.
So how do you incorporate joy in that? The results on the back end?
The joy? I think it's a really good question. I think that if I look at my life now compared to what it was 2 years ago, I have significantly more joy in my life. And if you put 10 years ago, it's wildly different. You know what I mean? I went from not wanting to be alive and being okay with not waking up tomorrow to genuinely I would be very bummed if I died. I don't know if everyone can say that, but I would be bummed if I died. Just there's a lot of stuff I like in my life. And so I think that the easiest way from a programmatic standpoint to reverse engineer joy is just simply saying, like, what do I enjoy doing on a daily basis, and then like, how can I create as many of those days as possible?
That's right.
And that's at least how I think about it. And so my days look more or less the same because this is what I like doing. I wake up at the time I like waking up. I train at my beautiful home gym that I have that's completely commercial. And, if you've seen some of the videos of it, it's very cool. I hang out with my wife. We do the same things because that's kind of my ideal day. And so we do as many of those days as we can. Every once in a while we add variety in, so it doesn't get stale, but that's how I like living.
Powerful, man. So take me back to when you start the first gym before all this happens.
Yeah.
You start the first one, and then it takes 9 months, you get the ball rolling. And then where are you at in revenue where you finally go, aha, now I'm starting to get it? What was happening where you went, now I went from being a novice. I went from being a beginner to like, okay, I get this.
I started out very successfully. I made $5,000 my first month in business. I made 10,000 the second month, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. 35 was month 7 or 8. I had the gym outsourced at month 9. So I had a manager and trainers full time so that I wasn't running the gym. Month 15.
And what was your overhead monthly at that time, give or take?
It wasn't too bad. I know that I'd scrolled away 50 grand in the first, I think it was the first 6 months, something like that. Like I'd saved $50,000. So I'd already made the money back for starting the gym in that time period. And then by month 15, I opened up the second location. And then month 21, we opened up the third location. And then we had 4 and 5, and then 6. So it was 6 locations in 3 years.
And did you have partners in them, or you were sole owner?
Yeah, so I started it on my own. And then being the unwise young entrepreneur that I was, I basically gave away 2/3 of my business for no money, even though it was making me $20,000 a month. I sold 2/3 of a business that was making $20,000 a month in net free cash flow to me for $34,000. And then I bought Sam's 10% back because he made a deal with me that he would get 10% of the business, and I didn't like that somebody else had 10%. So I gave away 2/3 at a like $37,000 valuation, and I bought back 10% at a $200,000 valuation that Sam had valued it at.
Yeah.
And so I ended up netting $17,000 for the sale of 2/3 of my business that was making me $20,000 a month. So these are examples of fucking stupid decisions that you make. And so if anyone's listening is like, man, this guy sounds like, a moron. Anyone can do it. But what ended up happening as a result of that is I now had 1/3 of a gym. And so I was like, well, shit, I need 3 gyms just to get back to where I was before. And so I think that might've actually tricked me into the desire to grow very quickly because I needed to make I was trying to retroactively make a poor decision seem like a good decision, right?
Yeah.
And so that was why I went into this trying rapid growth mode. So I had the two partners for the first two locations and the third location, and then me and one of the partners bought out the third partner, and then I ended up buying out the first partner, and it took 3 years to do this process, and then sold the gyms.
And how old are you at this age when you sell the gyms?
I was 20. I think I just turned 27.
Okay.
26 or 27. I can't remember. Yeah. So that was when I sold them all, and it was right at all of this stuff. All my timelines overlap, right? So I had my gyms, and then at this point it was me and the one partner, and I was like, hey man, I'm gonna open this gym. And so I opened my fifth one on my own, opened my sixth one on my own, because I didn't want to do the partner thing anymore. Because we also had different opinions about how we wanted to run it. Nothing wrong. It was just he wanted to go high volume, low cost. I wanted to go super premium, lower amount of people. It's just different. We still have a good relationship to this day. But anyways, during that process, I also started getting reached out to, and people were like, hey, can you help me do what you're doing? Because I'd open up all the gyms at full capacity, which was kind of my thing at that point. And so I started flying out to gyms and doing gym launches, right? Which is what we'd call them. So I'd fly out 21 days, sell 100 to 200 people, which was a lot.
How much were you charging initially for that?
I charged nothing, but I averaged $100,000 in sales for myself every 21 days. So it was working out well.
So how much? Sorry, let me understand that. So you're saying you charge nothing, but we're doing 100,000 a month?
Yeah, per gym. So I would fly out and I'd say, I get to collect all the upfront sales. I'll spend the marketing. I'll do the sales. I get all the upfront cash. You get all the customers.
So you negotiated that deal.
Yeah.
So you kept 100%. You kept 100% of the people you sign up first month.
Yeah, 6 weeks, but yeah.
That's fucking smart, dude.
Well, it's free acquisition for them.
Right, exactly.
And they have fixed costs.
And they like the fact that it motivates you because you get paid for what you deliver on. So it's aligned. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I'm risking everything here. I'm paying for a hotel for 30 days. I'm paying for a rental car for 30 days. I'm paying food for 30 days. I'm paying ad spend for 30 days. I got commissions for 30 days. I got all that. You have nothing out of pocket. So as a result of that risk that I'm taking on, I get the upfront for 6 weeks, and then you get the next 2 fucking years from the client.
Yeah. What made you think of that? Or was that just your intuitive first idea? Or did you kind of go back and forth weighing that decision out? Because that's a little scary, right? For your first time to pitch that. It's like, people don't sell that all the time, right? It's not like a normal
thing. There's no risk to them.
Yeah.
So I was like, pay $500, reserve the date, and I'll fly out. I was like, they're like, why $500? I was like, because I'm gonna put $3,000 in flights and stuff to your facility. I was like, this is literally just a token of commitment.
Yeah.
And they were like, all right, fair enough.
Okay, cool. So then right away you start getting one after another client one after another.
Yes, I did 33 launches over 2 years.
And you make your first $1 million during the stage.
So this is where the online community is a little bit,
Yeah.
I mean, the gyms that I had were already doing $2 million a year.
Yeah.
But like, I wasn't making $2 million a year. Like, it was revenue, not profit. Yeah. I barely had anything. And then I sold the gyms. I basically fire sold the gyms because I wanted to start doing the gym launch thing. Because that's what Russell, who became I signed up for Inner Circle as a gym owner, which made no sense, by the way.
Yeah.
I was on the sales call. The guy was like, "Oh, there's tons of gym owners here. Like, it'll be like, you'll love it. You'll get super connected." And it was one of the best decisions I ever made. But none of that stuff is true. It's true. It has nothing to do. Like, he might not have known. There was nothing disingenuous about it. It just the group was. I was the only brick and mortar owner in the group. But because of that, they were like, "What are you doing in a brick and mortar gym?" Well, like, online is where it's at. And so when he heard what I was doing with my gyms, he was like, dude, you have 6 gyms and you're 26. He's like, you need to be teaching people what you're doing. And I was like, I don't want to teach anyone what I'm doing. I was like, this thing is like, I've spent so long developing this whole process. I don't want to give anyone my secrets. And so that's what transitioned me to doing the launches, because I still didn't want to give away the secrets because I was so scarcity mindset stuff. And then finally, through a series of unfortunate events, basically we were doing like 6 or 8 gyms a month. So we started scaling it up, right? I had 8 sales guys do 8 gyms a month, and they didn't.
How are you handling that demand? You were just hiring like crazy, like just like getting the deals and then figuring out how to service later. Cause That must have been, I mean, for somebody, especially like yourself that likes systems and like things in orderly fashion,
It
things,
was a mess. It was a
yeah,
mess. It was a
but
mess.
cash was flying in. So you could use that cash to clean up the mess.
Cash
No?
wasn't really flying. Cash only flew in after we started doing the launches. So it's like someone would say, yes, I want to do this thing. And let's say it's, what day is today? So it's April, right? So they would say yes. I'm like, well, I can't slate you for May because I've already got gyms slated for May. So I was like, I could put you in June. I've got 2 slots left for June. So I had to balance how many gyms I had versus how many sales guys. The thing is, as soon as I moved to the next month, I had to get 8 more gyms because I had 8 guys. And I couldn't get 10 because I still had 8 guys because I didn't. Then you're like, do I scale up 2 more? But that means I have to do 10 the next month, right? So that part was scary. But the problem with the original model was I was the one holding the bag for the liability.
Right.
So I made all the sales, I processed the payments, but I had no control over delivery. And candidly, the people who were coming to me who wanted to get more clients weren't, I mean, if we're being candid here, were not the best gym owners, because really good people at delivery have full gyms, right? So the people who were really struggling were the ones who came.
Mhm.
And so they didn't do the best job of delivery at the time. And so I had 2 gyms in a matter of a week tell all the clients that I had sold to refund after I left.
Oh,
And it wasn't me, it was one of my sales guys, but like you get the idea.
Yeah.
So I got $100,000 in refunds, and like that was like everything I had saved up at that point. I had $100,000 in refunds, and basically the percentage of refunds that were there exceeded my margin in the business.
Holy
And so
shit.
what ended up happening was I had to sell more the next month to cover the month before's refunds. And I had to do that. And I had to do that 2 months in a row. And the nut kept getting bigger with every month that I would scale up. And so it was just it was horrible. Just the pressure was it was horrendous.
Do you think
And
that
so,
that pressure was necessary, at least at that stage, to catapult you to like have to figure it out? Because like there was literally no other
yeah,
option.
yep. I'm a big believer in that. What's interesting is that when I started the gym, and
You would have been at the scale you're at now at this quick without that, or that was a catalyst, would you say?
it was a catalyst because of the way the model was thought out. And so I'm a big proponent of this, is that, so for anyone who's listening, most people have had financial troubles in their lives at some point, right? But just about everyone listening has gotten out of those financial troubles.
Right. Eventually.
And, yeah. And especially if you're an entrepreneur, there's been many times you're like, how the fuck am I going to make payroll? I've got this tax bill that comes up, and then somehow magically you pull it out of your ass and you make it happen. Right.
Right.
And the thing is that it's my belief that everyone knows how to make money. They just aren't comfortable making it for themselves. They're okay making it for the government. They're okay making it for their employees. They're okay making it for their landlord. They're okay making it for their overhead. But when it comes to themselves, they treat themselves poorly. And so the thing that broke for me at that point was that I said, I have to just make money. I don't care about running a business. I don't care about the branding. I don't care about the enterprise. I was like, I just need to make money so I can get out of this horrible, painful situation I'm in. And so that is how that's what launched Gym Launch, version 2, which became the coaching program. Right. And it was because I figured, what's the most valuable thing I have? And I was like, I'll tell people how I've been making $100,000 just going to a gym and doing my process. But I was so scared of giving it away that the only reason I ended up doing it was because I was actually going to get out of the industry. So my wife started her online business.
How'd you meet her, by the way? Because I love that story.
Yeah, she you know my stuff, so I'll try. So my wife and I met on Bumble, and she was a trainer, and she was the top salesman for 24 Hour Fitness in Southern California. And so on our first date, I pitched her on working for me. I was like, hey, even if this doesn't work out, you should totally work for me. You can sell, we can make a ton of money together. And so I paid her, I tripled what she was getting paid. And she was like, okay. There's way more to this story, but she said, okay. And so she joined me on these launches. And so she and I launched these gyms together in the beginning before I started scaling them up. But she was with me, ground zero, day one, growing this thing. She was with me through the transition. She was with me through the borderline bankruptcy. She's been with me through the whole thing. And so she's a rock. But
holy shit, dude, that's amazing. Yeah. Do you think the fact that you guys bonded on the connection of fitness also laid a huge foundation to it being a strong foundation for the relationship?
I don't think fitness was the main thing. I think there was a much deeper connection from like a kindred spirits, like souls.
Yeah.
You know what
just
I mean?
Yeah.
We had a lot more similarities in fitness, because I mean, candidly, I dated people who were in fitness. Like fitness is very surface level. Like, she and I both were half Iranian father, white white mother. Both of us had issues with, had some difficulties in childhood. Both of us left our homes at the same age, drove across the country to California to start our lives again. Both of us had gone through this fitness journey transformation wise. Both of us got into fitness and said, like, there were way more similarities than just the fitness piece. And so the biggest one is that we were both growth oriented. We just wanted to grow. And so that's why we've been able to continue to do what we do. But she started her fitness business. It started doing $1,000 a day. And I was like, well, shit, let's just do this. Let's skip out the middleman with the gyms. We can just sell fitness. We'll take the 8 sales guys, do 8 guys selling 1,000 a day, selling digital products. This will work. Mm-hmm. And so I had
were they courses? They're like fitness courses for $1,000 or something.
It was a 16-week transformation program.
Okay.
Yep, and she would coach them through it. It was like a done with you program kind of thing. Like, this is the curriculum. This is what you're going through. I'll talk to you every week to make sure that you're following it. We adjust things, et cetera. And it started working. And so I had 8 gyms that were supposed to launch the next month. And I called them up and said, hey, we're not going to do this. We pivoted directions. And, they were like, hey man, we need this. And only at this point, because I didn't think I was going to get into fitness because I was so scarcity mindset, that I was like, fine, I'll sell my secrets. And so I sold my system, for $6,000. That was the first guy. And I put the number so high that I thought no one would ever say yes. That was that was my actual thought. Was I just picked a number that I didn't think anyone would buy. And the guy said yes. And I was like, holy shit. And then now that I knew I had to make this thing, because I sold one of them, I got on the call the next guy and I said, same conversation. I was like, $8,000. And he was like, okay. And I was like, holy shit. And the next call, same thing. I was like, $10,000. He was like, okay. And I was like, holy mother of God. And so I did $60,000 in sales on that one day.
Yeah.
And I realized, I was like, I mean, I can't express how, like, all I felt was like, whatever this was, let's do as much of this as humanly possible. And I want to get out of this horrible place that I'm in, because I still owed.
Yeah.
My nut for the next month was going to be like $100,000. Like, and that was before overhead. I had like $100,000 that I had to cover from refunds I knew were going to come, then overhead, then, you know what I mean? Then maybe there would be profit.
I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I went back to all 33 gyms and said, hey, remember that thing I did at your gym where we filled it up? Want to see how I did it? And they were like, sure. And so I basically sold almost every one of those guys, and ended up making, I think, $350,000 next month.
And what were the deliverables, or how were you packaging it? And the reason I ask is because a lot of entrepreneurs out there, they may have this expertise, or be building up to it, and they have a hard time figuring out how to package it, right? You can't sell what you don't package. So did you kind of audition different models? I'm sure over time you have, but initially that first round, how did you package it? Was it an 8-week program? Was it
it was 12 weeks.
Structure?
It was 12 weeks in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And then after I sold 100, I made it a 16-week program, and it's been 16 weeks since then. 16 weeks has worked out well. I mean, that was the program. I mean, I think the big difference between, most of the things that exist and what we did and what made Gym Launch special was the average client made $30,000 in their first 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
So I will repeat that slowly for everyone who's listening. My average client, so if I sell 100 people, the average person made $30,000 in their first 30 days. So when people are like, I want to replicate what Gym Launch did, I'm like, well, then replicate the results that we created, and then maybe we'll be able to replicate the success. But everyone thinks it's the funnel. They're like, it's a 3-step funnel. Every single, like, it's not that, you know what I mean? Like, you can look at it online right now. Like, you're not going to copy the business because of the funnel, right? Yeah. It's because of the delivery. It's because of the product. And because I was so sick and I hated the guru space and all that stuff, I was committed to not being a gym guru. Right. I was so committed to it that I ended up becoming probably the biggest one.
The biggest one ever. I know, you got like the book too and everything.
Yeah.
So I want to ask 3 questions on that real quick. I heard Dan Henry talk about the fact that he had a conversation with you one time. Yeah. And, in the online space, people talk about ROAS, right? Return on ad spend for ads. And people are impressed when they get like a 3x ROAS, 5x ROAS. And he was saying that you had like a 25 or 27x ROAS and you were obliterating it. And he was like, well, dude, what are you doing? Right? Because all these, internet marketers are so intricate about all these things. And you're like, well, my cheapest product is like 25K or like whatever the thing was. How important do you think that is? Because a lot of people could work their ass off at a model, but just the model has a sort of limit to it. How important do you think the positioning of a model is, and how much time should entrepreneurs really put into that part of it?
So that part of it is the thing that I am best at. I am not the best marketer. I will
Mhm,
be very candid about that. I didn't do email follow-up until 3 years in.
mhm.
We'd already done 50 million or 60 million in revenue before I sent my first email. Like,
Yeah.
just so like everyone's so obsessed with the everyone steps over dollars to pick up pennies.
Mhm.
Most people are just not like everyone who's listening has the same time, right? But we only have limited amounts of focus and limited amounts of juju that we can put towards things. And so it's just like, what handful of few things will make the absolute biggest difference? And price is obviously the biggest factor in that, but the subset of price is the value that you can provide, right? Like, if you sell something that's expensive that's not worth it, you run out of space very quickly because people do talk and you do get a bad reputation.
Exactly.
Like, we're in a niche. Like, this is the one thing that everyone, I feel like, that is lost on the community of the internet world, which is like, every other person who's done close to the volume that we have is mass market business opportunity.
Right.
Every one of them. We're the only ones in a niche, and we are 50 times, you know what I mean, bigger than anyone who's in one tiny little sliver of a niche,
Mhm.
right? And it's because I actually ran gyms and I actually made money running gyms, and the gyms that we have make money using our systems. And so the average gym that works with us adds 200 plus thousand a year to their top line revenue. They triple their profit. They cut their churn by 30%. They increase their prices by $38 a month, which, equates to the tripling in profit that they get. And they do that by providing more value to their customers, right?
Mhm.
I mean, sure, we have better sales systems and better marketing systems, but we also have really good retention systems that get people better results and a better experience at the facility, which is why they stay longer and they pay more, right? So it all starts with the bottom and then it works its way backwards. So yes, the lifetime return on ad spend that I have is 36 to 1. That's lifetime.
Mhm. Holy shit. And that leads to my second question too, and that is, how important do you think the niche is when it comes to the opportunity? Because a lot of people are, working hard, but that niche has a limit to scale. And I know you kind of mentioned it. People say that the biggest niches are the things like real estate, fitness, the traditional things that were here 50 years ago will be here in 50 years. And a lot of the kind of digital marketing space, as you know, can get super saturated with a lot of people saying the same things, and people misleading one another. How important for people, in your opinion, how important do you think it is for people to really appropriate their goals to the niche they're in and not get lost in the delusion of chasing something that just may not be realistic within a niche of people around them aren't doing it? And kind of, you get what I'm saying? There's a lot of people stuck in that conundrum. I know I was there too. So what
Mm-hmm.
advice do you have for people when it comes to evaluating the niche they're in versus the financial opportunity through the vehicle?
I was having a good conversation with my friend Kevin Hutto about this, and we both agree that it comes down to, there's two types of businesses that I would say, and I'm expressly saying this to the like marketing community because I think that's a subset of your audience, right?
Right.
Is you have traffic businesses and you have service businesses. All right. Traffic businesses are marketing arbitrage. You're simply buying eyeballs for less than it costs you to sell a thing, a widget, a course, a whatever, right?
Mhm.
And you go after a big ocean and you just have an ocean and you just try and make 2 to 1, 3 to 1. And that's the game. And you never run out of customers, but you also usually don't make a ton of profit, right?
Right.
I mean, if I know the numbers of the guys that everyone knows because they all know me, and they're spending 500,000 a month in ads and they make $1 million a month. You know what I mean? Like, my total advertising from this last month was probably 50,000,
Mhm.
and we pulled what, 880 a week is what I just added up for you before our call.
Yeah.
So we do 880,000 a week, and we have not a lot of advertising budget.
Mhm.
Actually, it might be more than that. I think for no, it's less than 100,000 a month. All right,
Yeah.
in advertising that we spend, which is wildly less than everyone else, and it's because we are a service business, which is the second category of business. Which is, our goal is to penetrate a market and take as much market share as we can and keep those clients, right? And then ultimately make it much more difficult for any competitor to try and compete against me, right?
Mhm.
So I can build something that has enduring value, that has enterprise value.
Mhm.
Traffic businesses do not have enterprise value. They are arbitrage plays for cash flow. That's all they are,
Mhm.
right? They do not have intrinsic value, because the moment the traffic stops, so does the money.
Right.
Right? In a service business or a business that has enterprise value, the business should be able to grow independent of your ads get turned off for a day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the other, kind of component. So does the niche matter? Yes. The reality is most people are just not that good. And so they think it's the niche, but it's really themselves. And so whether you're in fitness or like, doesn't matter any of the niches we just talked about. There's a $1 billion player in every niche.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in chiropractors, there's a $1 billion company that sells to chiropractors. There's a $1 billion company that sells fitness. Tons of $1 billion companies that sell fitness, as a matter of fact. There are, you know what I mean? There are tons of $1 billion real estate things. So if you're like, real estate's a bad niche, you're just not good at it. And everything seems bad when you are ignorant.
Mm-hmm.
Because you just don't know. You don't know how to play.
Mm-hmm.
And so most people are trying to forego the 4 years where you Rocky cutscene and put in all this volume and you learn mastery of a skill. Like Russell, which I think a lot of audience is probably familiar with, he pitched for years and sucked. You know what I mean? He was building funnels for a decade before ClickFunnels.
Mm-hmm.
And so everyone sees the ClickFunnels thing and sees the explosive growth, but the reality is that people will sharpen their sword doing something repetitive that is not a new opportunity. And then that opportunity will come knocking and they will take that skill set and apply it when it is their go. And the only way that they're able to have that explosive growth is because they are ready. Mm-hmm. And most people are just not ready. They think it's the opportunity, but you have to have the prep, and the prep comes from doing the work.
Yeah. And you talk about that. I know you said you did almost like 4,000 sales calls, because some of your businesses you mentioned, I know you guys do, you're paying just under $1 million a week, 880 or so. Those are usually in the fitness space, and it's because it's not an industry that you've got.
Half of them are in the fitness space. The other half are not. So right now I have 4 companies. We're acquiring 2 more. And so that's kind of where I'm at now is I'm looking for $5 million plus businesses that I can take to 20, you know what I mean? And just do that. But we have a business in the photography niche. We have a software business. We have the supplement business, which is, adjacent to Gym Launch, called Prestige Labs. So, the Prestige Labs was kind of it's not vertical integration, but it was just a huge revenue stream that I knew.
In parallel to existing customers.
Exactly.
Yeah. Makes sense. Now, when it comes to you, like dealing with some of the business challenges you have day to day, I'm sure, new levels, new devils. What's your mental reference, or what's your game plan when you're stuck with decisions that you don't have frameworks or systems for, which I'm sure happens all the freaking time, right? As you scale, what's your kind of MO? Do you just kind of come up with strategies, you try them, and then you see if it works, adjust accordingly? Do you kind of zoom out? Do you have coaches that kind of help you? What's Alex Hormozi's go-to when he's stuck in business trying to get to the next level?
It's a really good question. It's a really good question. This is just my take, and there's probably people much smarter than me, but the decisions that are huge decisions are fewer and fewer. You know what I mean? Because the bigger the ship gets, the rarer you're pivoting the direction of the ship, right? If you have a dinghy, you're switching directions every wave, right?
Right.
If you're on the Titanic, I'm not saying we're the Titanic, but or whatever, some huge boat, right? Titanic has some negative connotations. But if you're on some big Carnival cruise ship, they're not pivoting very much. You know what I mean? Right. So if you make a call, it's going to take time to move the boat, and you better be right?
Yeah.
And most times it needs to happen much more slowly than you think it does, or most times not at all. So most people are contemplating their having existential crises based on perceived pressures that they've invented for themselves.
Right. Yeah.
And so right now I like the level that I'm trying to get to is $100 million a year. And so that's that's kind of the next rung. And I believe I know what I need to do to get there. And so now it's simply doing it, and it may take time, and it will take time. But I think I'm aware of what needs to happen. And the way that I went about finding that information was talking to people who have done it multiple times and asking them, what do you see that I don't see? And this is something that I have always done, is I will massively overpay for people's time one-on-one.
Mm-hmm. Like I know you paid for Grant Cardone like $30,000 for the hour. By the way, are you good on time if we go over a little bit, or do you have a cutoff? You're chilling?
I think I might be able to go 5 over. I think I have a thing my wife needs.
Okay, cool. No worries.
But so every single major skill that I've ever acquired, every major decision that I've needed to make, I just say, what would it take for you to get on the phone with me? Just tell me the number and I'll see if I can figure it out.
Mhm.
And I mean, in every time, I mean, not with the grant one, but like earlier on, a lot of those times they were steep prices for me, but I paid them because I knew that my level of income was not going to be my life.
Mhm.
So if like it was the Sam example, right? I paid 10 and I was happy to do it because I just knew that if I could get 20 years of experience in 6 months, why would I not do that?
Mhm.
And when I paid, I think a Facebook marketing guy, I paid him $750 an hour for one-on-one coaching.
Mhm.
And I was like, dude, just teach me Facebook ads. And he was like, okay. So he taught me Facebook ads. And
Mhm.
so that's how I learned Facebook ads. Is I
And
paid
that's
a
way cheaper. Like if you get 2 hours with him for $1,500, that's way cheaper than hiring an agency for $2,500 a month that'll throw you to the thing or more, and to get lost. And they'll give
exactly.
you the bottom line shit. Yeah.
Exactly. And the thing is people wild and I'll tell you that conversation, he was in the internet space. He's like, I don't sell my time. And I was like, it's America. Everyone sells their time. And I was like, just tell me I was like, you don't sell your time for a price that you're not saying yes to. I was like, so what would you say yes to? And so he said 750 an hour. And I was like, done. Cool.
You're like, cool. Yeah.
Right. No, but dude, I mean, that was steep. That was super steep for me. You know what I mean? So
Uh,
I was showing up on every call, like,
Present. Yeah.
2 cups of coffee ready to absorb whatever he had.
Yeah.
But the thing is I didn't ask him how to run Facebook ads. I asked him, how would you run Facebook ads for my business? I will run them. And then you tell me what decisions you'd be making. What do I turn off and why? So I can understand the thought process. And so
Mm.
once I understood that, then I got it. You know what I mean? I think it took me 8 calls. So it cost me $6,000 or whatever it was to learn Facebook ads. I didn't buy a course. I just paid the guy, right? It was more than a course, but it also took me less time.
Mm.
It took me less time. If I had gone through a course, people make 60-hour courses. Like, I don't have 60 hours. You know what I mean? Because people don't know how to focus and make good courses. But like this guy was able to solve my specific problem. I was like, I just need local lead gen for a gym. What do I need to do?
Mm.
And he showed me. And that was it.
Dude, that's, the one thing I love about your stuff, even when I see your ads, because you have some of the most creative ads I've seen online. It's half of it is like, you don't give a shit to play in the confines of everybody else, but you obviously give a shit for them to do well. And you do that. Like, I can tell there's a lot of, like, I think you had an ad the other day, it was like, there's 2 things I love, this and like jorts,
Yeah.
right? Whatever it was. Obviously, I'm sure you have a team helping you with that stuff.
Yeah.
But what's your general mindset? Or are you at a stage now kind of where you have the capital to kind of experiment a little bit, and so you're kind of a little bit more risky? What's your approach with that? Just to help entrepreneurs out there who might be curious.
Yeah. So this is the single greatest piece of advice I can give you if you want to learn how to market better. Take a percentage of your advertising spend or a percentage of your income if you're still working a job and say, this is what I'm willing to spend, and I'm willing to see 0 return because I'm spending this on education, because there is no advertising school. The advertising school is you spending money. And so if you figure, all right, I'm going to spend $500 a month for a year, it's a $6,000 school, but I'm actually going to learn, and you have to spend it. Because if you don't spend it, right, then you're not learning. And if you do spend it, then you're going to learn how to do it because you're not going to try and waste your money. But you're going to give yourself mental permission to do so. And that percentage can change over time. But roughly, for me, if 10, I mean, I've gotten over this now. I spend money whenever, you know what I mean? But as I was raising up, the idea that I could spend 10% on stuff that I like mentally did not hold myself accountable to allowed me to try new things. And honestly, most of the time, the crazy ideas don't work. But every once in a while, something really cool does work. And then it's like, whoa, that was awesome. And then you learn some skills. And then you just repeat that over time.
And do you think, Alex, that when it comes to, like, I know a lot of the skill and discipline, you talk about the fact that, a lot of people might see you as 31, you might be young. So they might be, 28 or 30 or whatever. And so they're in year 1 or 2 and they're like, oh shit, how's he doing it? Right.
Yeah.
Not knowing that there's that huge discrepancy of time and, effort under the bar, or time under the bar, as you say, like in the gym.
Yeah.
But like, can you just, give maybe a quick, like 1 or 2 minutes of insight on that, on the importance of really putting in the work? I know it's a message you drill all the time, but maybe it's new to the audience here, of just how important it is to like not expect your first sales call to be the same results as somebody else's 1,000th sales call, that kind of thing.
Everyone sabotages themselves simply based on expectations. I mean, that's it. Like, what it comes down to is people sabotage themselves because they think that they should be more successful than they are, independent of a realistic assessment of what they have done. And so they take 2 sales calls and say, I didn't close anyone. And either I suck at sales or this isn't for me. If someone else were to tell you they spent 2 hours, quote, and they haven't even read a book on sales, they haven't done anything, right? Studying sales and said they weren't good, why would you expect them to be? Or if I used a different example, if someone spent 2 hours studying Spanish and couldn't speak Spanish, would you be surprised by that? Would you feel like it was reasonable for them to expect that they would be proficient in Spanish? Of course not, right? And so for some reason, we apply these unrealistic expectations simply because we see someone who's at the same age as us. And so the way that I likened it, I came up with an analogy that I really like, which is the story of the dice. So let's say you and a friend, right, are both given a die, right, a many-sided die. And so let's say one of you has a 20-sided die and the other one of you has a 200-sided die. On your die, only one side is green. The other sides are red. Both of you. The catch is no one knows how many sides each person has. The rules of the game are simple. If you roll and you hit red, you can pick up and you can roll again. If you hit green, you make a sale. And every time you roll a green, the die that you has shrinks aside, which means that your probability increases with the next roll. So you start playing the game and you realize that there have been people who've been playing this game since time began. And there have been people who've been playing this game for 30 years. People have been playing this game for 10 years. But you don't know how long anyone's been playing. All you see is the size of their die. But you don't know if they started at 5,000 or you don't know if they started at 3. The size of the die is related to your natural talent, your natural proclivities, the things that you're born with, right? The experiences that you had that got you to that point. But what action do you take? You roll. There's nothing else to do. You roll. There's no other actual action. And the only thing that has to happen is whether or not you stop rolling. That's it. The success is simply simply predicated on your ability to hit red, pick up the die, and roll again. But you looking at everyone else's size of die, you don't know how long they played, and you also don't know their natural talent. So they could have been smaller because they've been playing a long time, or it could have been smaller because they had natural talent. But the thing is if you and your friend went in, as the story goes to conclude it, your friend rolls a couple of times, and he quits, and he sees you hit green, and then he gets more and more frustrated every time you hit green, even though his roll is completely independent from yours. And he doesn't know that he actually has a 20-sided die, and you had the 200-sided die.
Holy shit, dude. So roll the dice.
Yeah, there's only one action. You roll the dice. And so if you're on a limited, so here's an interesting one. It's a risk-adjusted return. It's a concept I like a lot. Mm-hmm. So Jeff Bezos says, if you have a 10% chance of 100 times payout, you should take that bet every time. Right? You go to a casino, 100 times payout for a 1 in 10 bet. Why wouldn't you? You bet 10 times and you're going to hit 100, you're going to, statistically, you'd hit 100 at one point, right? It'd be worth it. Right. What if, to make it a more realistic example, what if you had $100 and the minimum bet was 25? Mm-hmm. Now do you take the bet? What if the minimum bet's 50? So you only have 2 rolls, but the risk-adjusted return is there, but you only have 2 rolls. What do you do? That is the reality for most people right now. They know that if they play long enough, they will eventually win, or hopefully they believe that, right? But they only have a certain amount of plays in them. And so that's why it's my belief that you just take a percentage, not an absolute amount, take a percentage of your income and say, this is what I'm willing to spend. This is what I'm willing to roll on learning the skills. Because right now there is no university for acquisition. This is what I'm hoping to build. You'll see it's one of my projects that I'm doing on the side, but there's no school for this, right? And so the school that everyone has to go through is the thing that no one's willing to do, which is you have to risk. And if you don't like risking, then entrepreneurship is probably not for you. You have to be comfortable with uncertainty. Yeah. And so
do it over a sustained enough period of time to get, to hit on those bets.
And I think that might be a good point to wrap, to bring everything around on. So the single greatest thing that I can hopefully convey to the audience that has been given me the greatest peace of mind, the joy that you referenced earlier, is looking at people who are billionaires, not millionaires, and listening to how they talk and how they think. And there's plenty of universal things they have in common. But one of the ones that I noticed that was most significant for me was the extension of the time horizon.
Yes.
Which is, if I extend my goal, let's say it's make $1 million a year. And let's say I give myself a decade to hit that. I would probably come up with a very different plan than if I wanted to be a millionaire in 90 days.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, millionaire versus millionaire, $1 million in revenue are completely different, but like, let's leave that aside for a second, right? But the plan that I would set for a decade would probably be very reasonable. And the likelihood that I would achieve it would be very high. And even moreover, I would probably achieve it before the decade was over, probably much sooner, simply because of the shift in my perspective. Mm-hmm. And because I wouldn't put this undue pressure on myself and not jump from opportunity to opportunity because this isn't happening, quote, fast enough. Mm-hmm. And what ends up happening is when people are starting out, they're looking for arbitrage opportunities. They're looking for something that's quick money. But the thing is, there's so many ways to make reliable money. And if you can go in those things, then it goes from get rich quick to get rich for sure. And if it were up to me, I'd always rather play the latter. And so that's been the biggest gift that I've had. And if you can extend your time horizon, the question isn't whether someone gets rich, but if they stay rich, right? It's not whether they make money, but whether they keep money, they keep making money. So if someone says they, skyrocketed to $1 million webinar, cool. Well, what are you doing next year? The year after that, and year after that, are you growing? Because I would much rather have something that I know grows 20% a year indefinitely than something that grows by 3x and then tanks by 50% and it goes up by, you know what I mean? Like just the wildness that tends to accompany internet marketing compared to true business.
Yeah. Do you think, last question I have, Alex, do you think that most people, and that was super profound, that's going to definitely be a highlight clip on the gram, we'll send that to you. Do you think that the ultimate, in the online space at least, do you think that the ultimate thing to sell is something that helps people in a certain context make money? Because other products could help you get fit or help you do stuff. There's a sort of limit to scaling that. But would you say, at least in a general sense, that helping people make money there's the most, as long as you have the experience, credibility, and results, that is the most longevity and sustainable type of training, type of business in the internet marketing space, or not necessarily?
Not at all. I mean, I think even the question had some limiting statements in it. B2C always has more skill than B2B. So helping people get fit, there's 300 million Americans and half of them are overweight, right? Or even if they're not overweight, half of them want to be better, more fit than they are. Mm-hmm. So, if I'm selling to gym owners, I got 40,000. If I'm trying to sell weight loss, I got 150 million.
Right.
So your ticket may be lower, but your volume is so much higher, right? I mean, we say that and it's like, well, there's only a certain limit. It's like, is there a limit on Weight Watchers? Is there a limit on Jenny Craig? Is there a limit on Beachbody? Is there a limit on P90X, which is a subsidiary? Is there a limit on Herbalife? Is there a limit on Visalis? Is there a limit? Like, I can keep going. You know what I mean? Like, all of these are fitness related companies. So no, I don't think, just on the premise of the question, no, I don't think that. I do think that it's easy to fool people and make money much easier, because if we're being real, the vast majority of people don't have the experience that they're claiming they do because they are, quote, expert, except they never have done it, or they did it one time. I mean, literally, I saw a guy who did $10,000 a month in an agency and then started selling how to do $10,000 a month in an agency literally the next month after only being in an agency for 90 days. And I was like, 10 grand a month. Like, that's not like, what are we like, what? You know what I mean? Like, what are we doing? You know what I mean? And so,
yeah.
So make money is always going to have higher ticket. The reason more people will make money in the inexperienced internet marketer space is because it takes less operational drag to create more revenue with a higher ticket. Because if you sell 100 clients at 10K, it's $1 million. It's much more difficult to make $1 million in fitness. That being said, if you are operationally sound and you have a good product and you have good marketing, then you can also sell 10,000 people on your fitness thing, right? But it just takes more operational skill. And most people in the internet marketing space are not operators. Mm-hmm. And so they're always trying to go towards the arbitrage traffic play, which is how can I buy eyeballs for less than the thing that I'm selling, because they have no back end, they have no delivery, they have no operations, they don't have built infrastructure, they can't build culture, they can't recruit people, they can't manage, they can't build teams, they can't build process, they can't do any of those things, right? And so they just do the thing that they have into somebody who has a hammer, the only skill they have is marketing, then they just try and find the quickest, easiest money, right? But I don't think that B2B is the most longevity, the way that most people practice it, because they just sell a unique mechanism. They sell a quick arbitrage play, right? So they figured out that Messenger or whatever, they figured out that groups are the way it is. But the thing is groups will disappear. Just like Facebook newsfeed ads for local has taken, a big tanking, right? And there's always going to be a thing that's not a business. It's based on an arbitrage opportunity, which means it'll disappear inherently, mm-hmm. right? Whereas if you have a a process, like a consulting process that can improve any business, then that stands the test of time. If you can answer the question, will this be here in 20 years, right? Well, the thing that I'm selling, See's Candy, Warren Buffett, it's going to be here in 20 years, right? Like, you know what I mean? There are like that stuff that can last. You know, fitness, for example, even. People need to eat less and move more. If you have a very good service delivery behind that, you can do very, very well, and you can continue to do so for a very long time, because that's not going to change. Human bodies haven't changed, right? And so it's just more difficult because it requires skills that most people in the audience that we are listening to right now do not have. And most of them do not invest in those skills, which is usually, candidly, what separates the guys who are doing the most from the guys who are doing the least.
They put in the work and they roll the dice. Thanks so much for being on the show today, Alex. And where can people find you if they want to learn more from you?
I've got a YouTube channel that I just started. You can just search my name, Alex Hormozi. I've got a book you can get on Amazon, or you can get on alexsbook.com. It's called Gym Launch Secrets, but it's 90% business book, 10% about gyms. And I've got a podcast called The Game. If you want to just listen in, it's awesome. A great podcast.
Dude, I love The Game. It's like 5, 10, 15, 20-minute audios of just little random moments of inspiration where you share a bunch of business stuff. Thanks so much for all you do, Alex. Appreciate you hopping on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
If you guys enjoyed that video, be sure to hit that subscribe button right now, because every week we bring you the very best in personal development content, interviews, and insights to help inspire you to take your life and your dreams and make them a reality. And also, if you want to know how to book dream guests the same way I have, you can check the link below for my top 3 secrets. So if you have a podcast or a show or whatever it is and you want to collaborate with them, if you click that link below, I'll give you those top 3 secrets to help you get in touch with anybody. And also, don't forget that The Passionate Few is available on media platforms as well. So you can subscribe to the podcast. And until next time, thank you for being one of the Passionate Few.